I'd like to call to order the meeting of our Rutherford County Public Safety Committee for June, and we're glad to see each and every one of you here this evening. At this time, I'd like to ask that our Vice Chairman would read or approve our minutes from our last meeting.
Thank you, Chairman Reed. I've reviewed the minutes of May 22nd and found them all to be in order, and I make a motion that they be approved as mailed.
Second.
I have a motion to approve the minutes and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes from the last meeting have been approved. Committee, I'd like to make a request that if we could to move item 12, which relates to the Forensic Center, to move it up to the next thing on our agenda, if that is okay with have a mutual consent of everyone, that we do so. And we'll do that. And at this time, I'm going to ask that the mayor would go over that particular business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as this committee is aware of, there's an opportunity for Rutherford County to be the location for the state's 6th forensic medical center in the state, with the other 5 being in Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville, and Johnson City. The calendar for approval on that tentatively is set for July 13th. The FSAG committee will make their recommendation, and so what I'm asking this committee to approve is for Michael Smith in either the end of August or on about the 1st of September, when he goes to the bond market, to potentially include on or about $6 or $7 million for our part of the funding for the Regional Forensic Center that would be located off of Weekly Lane in Smyrna. And so this is that very first step in that process. If you approve this this bond, or for Michael to go to the bond market, it does not approve. It's not the final approval process. We still have to come back to this committee for final approval, and then of course there are other committees that are involved within the bidding and the construction process. But this is the very first step in those steps to securing the funding for that facility. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Mr. Chairman, how confident are you that we're up to the bat, realistically up to the bat on this? I guess what I'm asking is, if we go to the bond market for it and we're not getting it, we're what, $6 million back in debt on something that we end up not with? No,
that wouldn't be the case. We're going to know. As I said, Michael doesn't anticipate going to the bond market until the end of August, the 1st of September. We will probably know on July 13th. So your approval doesn't obligate Michael to go to the bond market. It just puts things in motion, because as a result of this committee's vote, if it's a vote of approval, then goes to budget. That won't happen till August, but it has to come through this committee first before it goes to budget, and that then would be after July 13th. So your approval today does not obligate the county in any way.
So it basically just gives the opportunity for it to send on to budget?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, have we made any anticipation of this fiscal note in next year's budget?
Yes, this particular bond and the potential bond for the transfer station were all calculated in the budget year 23-24.
Mr. Chairman, I like the idea of the Forensic Center. I'd like this. My only concern is, for me, my step is wanting to wait. The first step for me is wait until we actually know we're going to need it. But I will make the motion to move this to Budget Committee.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Further discussion?
question, please? Okay, so this is to move this to budget in the event we get approval on the 13th.
Yes, ma'am.
Should we not get the approval on the 13th, then that would just kind of stop everything?
Yeah, there wouldn't be anything to move to budget.
Right.
Because what's contingent on the funding is approval from the state.
On the 13th?
Yes, ma'am. We're doing a $2.5 million match for land, and then another $5.5 to $6.5 million in additional cash funding. The state's portion of this is $16 million. If the state doesn't come up with the $16 million match, then obviously we will not be proceeding.
Any other questions, comments?
And so if we do not get approval, then there would be no need to have that amount included in what they go to the bond market for.
That's correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Not for this anyway.
Right,
Yes, ma'am.
exactly.
Yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, the way I understand this, our approval tonight is sending a positive message to the state who's going to be making those decisions that we're fully behind this and ready to go with it.
That would be important.
That's a positive message that's coming out. The budget that we just passed provides for this body, our commission, to go to the bond market if we're approved. If we're not approved, they won't go to the bond market. That whatever that is, $6 million will not go on to debt service. So that will be actually a reduction in debt service. But this vote tonight is important for us to send a message to the state that we're supportive of this and we want this project and we want it to go forward.
Yes, sir. That is exactly correct.
Mr. Chairman, you may be wondering why this goes before public safety. It's due to the fact that in the very beginning when we started discussing the forensic center, that this is where it started. Plus, it's also connected through our emergency medical is where some of the beginning of this was. So this is where we're starting again from that direction. If not, Madam Secretary, I ask that you call a roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Chairman Reed?
Yes,
Motion passes.
motion does pass. Thank you, Mayor. Move on now to item 2, Fire and Rescue Report. We'll ask the Chief Farley come forward at this time.
We had 7 structure fires, 306 medical calls, 26 MVAs with injuries, 35 without injuries, for a total of 634 calls. Year to date, we've had 39 structure fires. We've run 1,433 medical calls, 146 MVAs with injuries, 195 MVA without injuries, for a total of year-to-date 2,986 calls. Countywide, including the volunteer calls, we've had 48 structure fires, 74 brush fires, and we had a big one this afternoon out in Las Casas that was pretty hot on our guys out there. I think some of them got dehydrated. We've had 40 illegal burns, 38 vehicle fires, 530 MVAs. 15 of those were with extrication. A total of 1,469 medical calls, and for a total of 3,741 calls year to date. The next document is what we send to the county codes and to Rob Mitchell's office, because that's where they know they may be pulling a permit, and I think if there's enough damage that Rob also gives them a tax break on their property taxes. The next sheet is our investigation report. showing what structures were, addresses were investigated and what the outcome of those were. We had a grand total of 3 alarms installations last month. And I want to remind everybody, too, that we have plenty of free smoke alarms to install. If anybody needs one, they just need to contact our office. And then the last report is our unauthorized illegal burn report. And also, I'd like to update the public safety building, public health and safety building out at Rockville. It's complete. We're just working on going through the punch list of some things that need to be repaired. The Kitchell Fire Station is getting very close. They've got the landscaping finished. The cabinets are installed, the countertops, and just a matter of just finishing touches. And I think they're out there right now wiring the NASCOM's wiring the radio system in, and AT&T was out there, but I think there may be a little delay on getting the network set up through AT&T because of a pole issue. But we're getting very close, hopefully, to being both of them. And that's my report.
Chief, I'd like to tell you, too, yesterday, the Planning Commission approved the Christiana site. So that was done yesterday. So we're on our way. Any questions for the chief?
Mr. Chairman, due to the nature of the hot weather that's coming in, is there some type of burn ban or in effect this weekend and then for the 4th of July?
Not at this time. If there is, we'll announce it through media and through our PIO, Ms. Lisa Kay, and then she'll turn it into the local news channels and WGNS, but right now we don't have one. Okay.
And then also, is there something, this may not be in your area, for like the elderly to check on, or due to the extreme heat, is there something in place or shelter for those who may not have air conditioning units or anything like that?
Not to my knowledge, and that might be something that Public Safety Director Chris Clark will probably answer.
Okay, thank you.
Question, please.
Okay.
Chief Farley, when I was looking at your report, and this may be the first time I've noticed this, but what's the difference between a case suspended versus a case closed?
You talking about on the
Yes, sir. On your investigation report.
Well, it was a vehicle fire on 840, and it was accidental, and so the case is closed. In other words, it was ruled accidental, so the case is over with.
So then what's the difference between that and then when you say a case is suspended?
That went through the court system.
I see. Gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. James?
Chief Farley, I have a question concerning the volunteers and their programs. Now that we have our budget set and we know we're paying them, with the exception, I guess, Eagle is 60, the others are at 80,000. At what point will we see a contract come through with for the year with them?
You won't see a contract. There's a contract that continues every year that's between the county and the volunteers. It just mandates what they're expected to do and the equipment they're expected to maintain and have maintenance. And as long as they continue to accept money and stay in service, it just continues every year. I think the last one was signed in 2020.
Feels kind of like we might need to update that, especially with us bringing others online and off, and have that timeline and know what's coming ahead so that we're prepared. Both sides are prepared. Nobody's kind of left in the dark. I don't want to see what happened with Kittrell, who closed shop a little early on us before we were ready to take over.
What do you mean prepared? They get the money as long as they're performing and that they're keeping their equipment maintained. So what are you referencing?
Okay, forgive me. I'm an Army guy, so I'm used to having a contract beforehand. So that's kind of what I was expecting to see, was some kind of agreement, and it'd be each term, each time the money, there's something that says that, I believe Mr. Piercy made the amendment with certain criteria for each quarter and so forth, but just something along that lines. That's just kind of, it might operate a little different than I'm thinking it should.
There was a contract updated in 2020 between the volunteers and the county, and the fire chief signed it. And so it increased the amount of money they're receiving, and plus it's the same mandate of what they're required to do, and the information they're required to turn in every year. And as long that contract just renews automatically as long as they continue to receive funds. And what Mr. Piercy put in place was that after the January 1st, he wanted me to take a look at Las Casas books and make sure they were spending all their money on fire-related issues.
Okay, when I went back and watched that, and it was, my understanding of that motion was every quarter, they'd make sure that the money was going for the operation and insurance fees, not, I don't remember anything about January 1st.
Well, if my memory serves me right, he said they would, it's $80,000, and they would need the $40,000 to pay their insurance and other issues. And he said, so when they get ready for the last 40, which will be around, they get $20,000 each quarter. So he said they would need the $40,000 to pay their insurance and something else. And he said, so before they get the last 40, which would be around the first year, he wanted me to take a look at how they're spending the money. Is the way I understood it, and I may be wrong.
And that actually opens up my point right now is we're kind of looking at it and trying to remember that the contract, an updated contract would probably be helpful. Just food for thought. I see what you're saying on that. I'll look more in a little bit more detail on it, but I think we kind of both made each other's point with it.
Well, I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of the report. That way you can review it and, yeah.
Just so I know more what I'm thinking on it, because like I said, I'm just an old Army guy who's used to having the contract before you step out. So with the new budget, I thought we'd need it.
Well,
before we step out.
in that contract, it also requires how much insurance they're supposed to carry on the county engines to make sure if the one's damaged that their insurance will replace it. So I'll be more than happy to send you a copy of it. And if you got any questions, then you can bring it up again.
Okay. Yeah, and in that case, I move to approve the report.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to approve, have a second. Commissioner Beverly, further discussion?
Quick question, Chief Farley, can we all get a copy of the report, please,
Yeah,
sir?
I'd be more than happy to send it to all of you.
Thanks.
All right. All those in favor to approve the report, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, report is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 3, Sheriff's Office report. Deputy Chief Steve Spence. Evening, sir.
Hello. Good evening. This afternoon, our population in the jail was 729. Give you an update on our staff elevator. It's completed. We're waiting on the state to approve it. That's the end of my report.
Questions on the report that you have?
Quick question. So did you have some inmates released from the time we got this report? Because you said 729 now.
Yeah, this morning it was 7:34 and it's 7:29.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner Beverly. Second. Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Your report is approved. I believe you have a JAG 23 grant.
Yes, sir. We're requesting to apply for the JAG 23 grant with Murfreesboro Police Department. When it's announced, we are requesting for the Mayor Carr to be able to accept and sign the MOU with Murfreesboro City when it's awarded. We apply for this every year. The award ranges between $28,000 to $34,000, and it's no match.
Chairman, excuse me, do you
Yes.
mind explaining what the JAG 23?
It's a government grant that we've shared with the partnership with Murfreesboro.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion approved. Motion has been seconded. Further discussion?
Question. So these funds that you receive, you said between 28 and 34,000, what are they basically used for?
We can use it for any law enforcement equipment. We just have to state up front and then utilize that money for those items.
Okay. Is this the first time you have?
No, ma'am, we've done it for several years.
Oh, okay, cool.
Further questions? Call the roll.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Item 4, PAWS Report. Director Michael Gregory, good to see you, Mike.
As well. For the month of May, we had 449 animals come into the shelter, 416 left back out. We had a live release rate on our dogs of 94.3%, cats were 94.4%, and when wildlife were included, it was 93.5%, which ended up with a 4.3 euthanasia percent for the month. Our officers completed out 1,453 calls for the month and traveled 10,644 miles. Fiscal year to date, our live release rate is 93.8. Our euthanasia percentage is 3.9. Officers have completed 13,666 calls, traveling 100,486 miles during that time. Our rabies exposure and bite report that goes by calendar year, you can see for the month of May, we had 41 bites reported. One of those was sent for testing. It came back negative, and we had 3 other exposures that were reported. None of those were sent for testing. Thus far this calendar year, we've not had a positive case confirmed in Rutherford County. The last page of the report is a monthly graph that I give you all. That way you can just visually see the live release versus euthanasia and other outcomes. Did want to give you a heads up for next month. We were bringing a couple of budget amendments. I know it's kind of early in the year to do that, but we did get some word that we received a couple of grants. So we'll be bringing that next month so we can go ahead and get that money moved around so we can start getting those grants spent. And that's no cost to the county grants. And that is my report for tonight, sir.
Questions on the report?
Question. What determines whether you send a bite out to be tested?
A lot of different factors. First of all, if it's an owned animal and an owner wants to keep that animal, we're obviously not going to send that animal off for testing. A lot of the testing criteria, though, is determined by the state lab. So they're very picky, and there has to be certain things that are done before an animal can be sent for testing. So we follow their guidelines. And if there's ever any doubt, we have contact with epidemiologists and those type folks at the state that we can run through the particulars of that case and get an answer on whether to send or not. So it's not a decision we're making in-house by ourselves.
Question. Can you give a brief update on the surrender timeline for any pets that?
Still very long. Still very long. It depends. Some of it depends upon what type of animal it is. Unfortunately, if it's a pit bull, and we're not restrictive towards pit bulls, but I just can't move those. Right now, I couldn't give you an exact time frame of what we're looking at on some of those animals, but the shelter is pretty jam-packed full. We had 3 cages on the adoption floor that were open as of today, and then we have some of those that are being filled, the guys that are having surgery today. So it's a huge backlog within the shelter. It's a backlog within rescues. It's a backlog within any shelter across the country. So we're really trying to manage what comes in and what goes out to try to move things through quicker. But when it does come to an owner surrender situation, we are talking about an animal that is owned by that owner. That is ultimately their responsibility. When it comes to strays, we can typically get those booked in exact same day, which is a far cry from where we were. If you'll remember, 3 or 4 months ago, we were down to where we weren't even able to run stray calls with our officers simply because we didn't have enough officers. We are able to handle stray calls now with where the officers are, which is better than we were, but it's still not where we want to be. Yes, sir.
Mr. James.
Just more general information. With a kennel full of animals, I'm wondering if you've come across any tips or tricks during the 4th of July weekend, or a time frame for the anxiety they get over those fireworks.
Well, for the anxiety part, that would be something to talk to your local vet to see if they would prescribe something. But I did see something that came across Facebook over the last couple of days and said the biggest way to not have to worry about finding your animal on July the 5th is to make sure your animal's inside on July the 4th. But there are there are various methods that you can use as far as, sedatives and that kind of thing. That'd kind of be a last resort. But, being there with them, trying to keep them calm, trying to keep them as quiet as possible. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, they're not used to those type things. We have people in our neighborhood already shooting them off now, and that's making some dogs in the neighborhood go a little bit crazy. But it can definitely be a little bit detrimental to them to have all that sound. So typically for shelters, they say July 5th and 6th is one of the busiest days of the year. We've seen that sometimes, but we've not really had a rhyme or reason to it, but we anticipate we'll probably have a lot of strays those days.
Make sure you got a tag on them or chipped one way or the other so that
Tag
you
and
can
the
get them
chip,
back.
and definitely keep them up if you have that ability.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rather.
I don't like cats at all. However, my daughter, is kudos to you and your office. My daughter wanted a cat. I don't allow cats. So she brought her grandfather, who's my dad. He adopted the cat because she was 17. I read through the packet that came with it and saw all the things that you did with that cat, the vaccinations, checkups, and whatnot. It was thicker than this. I was very impressed with what you do prior to adoption, and it's got to be costly.
It is, but it's cheaper on the front end to do those things than have to worry about them on the back end.
Yes, well, we did have to go to do a follow-up exam. I think the cat had a little surgery or something, but I was very impressed with, you don't let somebody walk in, pick out a cat, and take it home. Y'all did a lot of work up front, and then there are requirements afterwards, and I was amazed.
Appreciate that. It's definitely, like I said, it does cost money for us to do that, but you're getting an animal that everything is being disclosed to you, an animal that's already vaccinated, tested, had its spay and neuter surgery. If people only could wrap their minds around what a value it is to adopt from a shelter versus doing other things, because all of the things that it comes with. And our adoption process, some folks see it as being lengthy and having to jump through some hoops, but our job is to make sure that the animals that we're adopting out go into the best home that we can, and a home that's going to be successful, so we're not having them come back. So we try to do all that stuff on the front end to save ourselves a lot of headache on the back end. But I appreciate that comment. Thank you. That's my staff. When I left, there was a lobby full of folks because we had a litter of puppies that were adopting, so they have worked their tails off today doing that process with probably about 20 different people trying to get them approved. So.
Now, they got several lab cross puppies down there right now, so if anybody's needing a puppy, they've got several.
It was a litter of 11, and we had 5 when I left, if I recall. So.
Anything else? Anyone more questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner Beverly.
Second.
Second, Commissioner James. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Your report is approved.
Thank you all.
Be careful, somebody brings you a bear.
Been anticipating calls for that, and they told me that while I was out that initial week that we didn't have a single one, so I was pleasantly surprised.
All right, thank you, Michael. OSHA report, and I believe we got someone else that's going to make that presentation today. I believe it's Susan Thompson. And Susan, we're glad to have you with us. Those of you that don't know Susan, she is the she has gone through quite a bit of a training that when I received who is going to be there, she now has the ability to teach OSHA 10 hours or 30-hour training to classes to our Rutherford County employees. She's authorized general industrial trainer as well as certified safety and health official. So we're glad to have you on board as one of our employees there, and especially when you have to work with the director we have there and keep that going. Yeah, he's here to support you tonight, but we'd love to hear the report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. I'm reporting on the OSHA report for May of 2023. The total incidences for May reported were 24. That brings our year-to-date total to 113. Of that, 76 were OSHA recordable with 11 lost day claims, 51 restricted day claims, and 14 other recordables. And then if you go to the next page, it has a comparison of this year's total of 113 to 2022 at 75 and 2021 at 74. I know in the last couple of meetings there's been a question about the increase in claims this year over the last 2 years. And so we kind of looked at those as COVID years. So I looked at our pre-COVID years to see how our numbers this year being post-COVID compared to that. And for 2018, our May was, incidences were 19 with a year-to-date at that point of 110. And for 2019, our May incidences were 30 with the year-to-date of 117. So if you look at pre-COVID versus this year, the numbers are a little bit more comparable than to just the last 2 years. If the next page is our incurred dollars. Incurred dollars is the amount of dollars that the third-party administrator assigns to a claim when it initially gets to their office. It's just a set amount, and so for this year to date, it's at $417,000. Compared to last year, it was $268, and 2021 was $306. I did want to mention that the amount of claims that we've paid out is not as big a difference in the amount of incurred dollars. For our 266 for our fiscal year, we're only about a $60,000 difference in what we've actually paid out versus what we did the year before. And then the final page is of the 24 claims, 17 were at the Board of Ed, 7 were at County General, and of County General, there was 3 at the Sheriff, 1 at EMS, 1 at Solid Waste, and 2 at Fire. And another thing that we've been doing since I've been in this position is we've been working with departments that historically didn't have restricted duty or light duty available for employees that were able to return to work but couldn't in their regular position. And so we've worked with several departments to identify areas where they could still be a benefit to the department but also return to work. So that has also affected the amount of dollars we spent out versus what was initially put on the incurment. And also that 30% of our injuries don't require anything beyond first aid. So that also keeps our cost low.
Thank you. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve. To have a second and a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Come back and see us again. Recovery Court.
Chairman Reed.
We have Lachelle Ricks with us tonight doing that.
While she's coming forward, y'all be easy on her. She was about to have an anxiety attack back here.
I don't like public
presenting
speaking.
this,
Not
so-
a fan. I'm Lori Flippo. I'm the case manager supervisor for Recovery Courts. Shelley is out at a conference this week, so I'm going to cover for her. In the month of May, we had a total of 14 new participants enter into our program, 4 of which entered into our drug court, 5 into DUI court, and 5 in mental health court. We had no new admissions for Veterans Court. We had 5 graduations and 1 termination, all of which were in our DUI court programs. Currently, our numbers are as follows. Drug court has 41 people that are currently in our application process, 23 that have completed the application process and are pending their court date, and 52 participants currently in the program. DUI court has 23 people that are currently in our application process, 14 that have completed the application process and are pending their court date, and 71 participants currently in the program. Mental health court has 28 people that are currently in the application process, 14 that have completed the process and are pending their court date, and 49 participants currently in the program. Veterans Court has 5 people that are currently in the application process, 4 people that have completed the application process and are pending court date, and 13 participants currently in the program. This comes to a total of 185 people in our programs currently, 97 people in the application process, and 55 that have completed the process and are pending their court date. We continue to provide classes that teach them coping and life skills, case management services, and therapy and substance abuse counseling services. And that's my report.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Have the motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Had a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Probation report. I believe we have Jerome Hammonds. Is that right? Jerome is the treatment case manager.
Good evening, everyone. Here on behalf of Director Phillips. For the month of May, we closed out 187 cases for 170 people. We supervised a total of 1,178 active cases. We have 78 individuals in our programs. 22 individuals successfully completed those programs, and 6 individuals that were discharged from the program. With our olive branch, we were able to assist 6 individuals, 5 of which were experiencing homelessness, and 1 of those individuals had fallen on hardship or recently released. We also received some food donations that you'll see listed from one of our probation case managers. We currently have 28 participants in our 10 Rocks program and 7 individuals that have been accepted and approved for the program and have pending court date. With our revenue and expenditures for the month of May, the difference was $99,036.24. In the month of May, we turned over $11,771 to the clerk's office to collect probation fees through a payment agreement. In the month of May, $6,408 was turned over to the clerk's office to collect on a payment agreement, but those individuals have not entered that payment agreement yet. So far this fiscal year, we've turned over $122,464.50 to the clerk's office to collect through a payment agreement. And so far this fiscal year, a total of $68,481.50 in probation fees was sent to the clerk's office for those that had not entered a payment agreement. As of May, we have 11 individuals that have been deemed indigent by the court. This would be my report.
Have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Commissioner Oliver.
Second.
Second. Commissioner Rather. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Correction and Work Center. Superintendent William Cope.
Superintendent Cope, Rutherford County Correctional Work Center. I have 4 items tonight in your packet, and I'll start with our Work Center board minutes from our meeting on June 5th with the expenditure report that is included. Next would be our work release program. As you can see, that is going very well. Our yearly activity report, population staying about the same. Next would be trash collected on county and state routes. County roads, county trash collected 15,460 pounds in May, and then 719 bags of garbage collected on state routes. Next is our monthly worker report. You'll see total combined savings reflected $82,845 using inmate labor. Next is our medical CQI stats. And that is it for the report. And I have 2 items in addition to that.
Okay. Any questions, comments? I have a comment. I just want to tell you, I had some friends at church that had a situation right in front of their house where somebody unloaded a pretty good size amount of furniture just right out in the field in front of them when they got home. I think it was from church or whatever. And they were just very distraught over what had happened there and how they were going to ever get rid of it. And everybody was commenting on Facebook how terrible this was, and you'll never get rid of this and whatever. So I just contacted them and I said, contact this man right here and I bet you he can help you in some way. Well, They did, and then the next morning, they wake up and our guys are out there loading it all off, taking it off, and they're out there making pictures of them. And they have put that all over Facebook of what they were doing and how they did it and bragging on them. And I just think it was great what they did there and how they did it. And I just want to tell you personally how much I appreciate it, Superintendent, what you did there. And I tried to tell them, I said, I was just trying to send you to the right guy and getting it done. But it worked out really well, and thanks a lot.
I appreciate that, and we had a great conversation too with that resident, and we just talked for probably 30 minutes, and you know, and then got right on it and got it taken care of. So appreciate you recognizing that. I think they put me on Facebook as the commissioner for the workhouse, and I don't know if they got it mixed up. That's where I spend my time. I don't know, but I think it was really great, the job y'all done. Thank you.
Got promoted.
Assistant warden. That's what we'll call you.
Any other questions on the report? Do I have a motion to approve? Have a motion to approve and a second over here, Commissioner Sereno. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? The report has been approved. I believe you got a TDOT contract and maybe a train service agreement?
Our yearly Tennessee Department of Transportation contract is due, and that is the contract that we get reimbursed for going out and cleaning up the roadways for the litter removal. No significant changes in it. There were some changes in Murfreesboro city limits line moving a little bit, which will change just a little, but nothing really significant. But that brings in $68,881.62 yearly to get out and clean the roads, which is something we would be doing normally anyway.
Questions or a motion?
So this contract, it's done. It's an annual basis, and what makes you reset it each year? Like what I just asked earlier about contracts, how it's automatically done. I'm just wondering.
It's submitted each year. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking.
No,
This is a situation where if we don't fill out that contract, we don't get the reimbursement. That's pretty much what this is.
okay, so it's the state submitting it, and we're agreeing to the terms with the state. That thing, I'm reading that right?
Yeah, it literally is just reimbursement for something that we'd already be doing, which is picking up litter on the side of the roads.
Okay.
Record keeping primarily is what this is.
And we're paid, if you'll take a look in there, we're paid per mile on those roadways.
Superintendent, I believe this is state routes that they're talking about here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And there's a couple of different ways that we're reimbursed also. There's also a litter grant, which is completely separate from this. This is just through Tennessee Department of Transportation.
No other questions. I move to approve.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Have a second? Have a second.
Next is our service agreement with,
let's get this one. Call the roll.
Okay.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Beverly?
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray?
Yes.
Chairman Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. I believe you have the train service agreement.
Yes, sir. Next is our train service agreement for our HVAC, and it did go up $400 for the year, which is, it's pretty standard.
Question?
We've had this before,
Yes, sir,
and it only went up $400 a year.
for this year. Yes, sir.
Outstanding.
What we try to do.
So we have a motion.
Is this talking about the 22-23 year? Or is this the contract that's coming up for 24?
It'll start in
23,
23.
24.
It'll actually be a 5-year agreement.
So was this not already included in your budget that was presented? That we get money?
This will be included in it.
It is included in the budget we just passed.
Gotcha.
Move to approve.
Motion approved, Commissioner Ratner.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Call the roll.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the last thing I have is just something for your reading enjoyment. Each of you, I put a copy of this inmate-led newsletter out there for you. This is a completely resident-led publication. A lot of times I get asked, what are these guys and these ladies doing when they're not working during the day or going to class at night? And this will kind of give you an idea at what they do, what their ideas are, what their hopes are, their dreams, their plans when they get out. But it's every bit of it was done by the offenders that are residents in our facility. And we had one of our staff members who donated his volunteered time to edit it, and it turned out great. But it'll give you kind of an idea of kind of what they go through and what they hope to achieve. So hope you all enjoy that. I promised those guys that I would get this out to as many people as I can, and I hope you take a look at that. It's pretty interesting. Lastly, I'd just like to thank Chairman P. for coming out and spending the morning with us, traipsing around the jail and hanging out with us. That really means a lot to our staff and our residents that are living out there. So I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
This is very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Those guys worked hard on it. It just kind of, you keep people busy and you give them a little bit of hope, and hopefully they'll leave out of there better than they came in. So, keeping those guys busy and those ladies busy while they're out there is one of our missions.
I got here a little early and read through this. It's quite impressive. What's your target audience? Who gets these things?
They do. They are doing it for themselves, and of course you guys.
Us guys is pretty interested in this. A lot of success stories in there that's somewhat emotional. It's really a great thing. Good job.
They are. In addition to this, we've actually started a podcasting class that hopefully I'll be able to get you all a digital version of. And we're talking about, and Chairman P. and I talked about it today, we've got nearly 400 volunteers on staff that are willing to come in and just do extra things for these guys, whether it be an art class or the podcasting. It's just teaching them something extra or giving them a little bit of attention to do things the right way and to focus on positivity. So that's what this whole thing is about here. That's all I have.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Juvenile Detention Report. Give them to Director Lynn Duke. Afternoon.
Good evening. In front of you, you have our monthly report for May 2023. The first thing you'll see is our Juvenile Detention Center board minutes for the month of May. And I can answer any questions on that. You have our yearly activity report. As you're used to seeing, our STD stats, our rap sheet, and then some information on monthly facility programming. And I will happily answer any questions that you have.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, any update on Cheatham County?
We have contacted them repeatedly. I don't think that it's going to be a long-term issue. Smaller counties, it takes them just a little bit longer to get their checks to us, but it's not something that we're concerned about.
Other questions? Mr. Rather?
Director, I noticed on your board meeting, there was discussion about out-of-county employees. You had openings. When you advertise those positions, is that just in Rutherford County, or is that statewide, region-wide, or what?
All of our open positions are handled through the Human Resources Office. It goes out unless we specify that it's internal for existing JDC employees for a promotional type situation. It's my understanding that they put that out on all of the social media hiring sites, as well as on the county's own website. If we have two applicants that are completely equal across the board, we prefer, like the handbook says, to hire Rutherford County employees or citizens. But if we have somebody that is exceptional in their application that lives out of county, that's not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Do we have a motion to approve the report?
So moved.
Second.
Over here. Motion has been approved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Report has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emergency services? Director Chris Clark. Evening.
Chairman, Commissioners, Chris Clark, Public Safety Director. Hopefully you have the report in front of you. Few things I'd like to add is that we conducted an after action of our tornado with our first responders. It went really well to find what went really well and what we need to work on. We're also working with FEMA and volunteer groups to continue the recovery efforts in Readable area and also Eagleville. We've also assisted in a lot of large event planning with multiple agencies across the county. Some of those include Detective Bu's funeral, the air show, and then here recently we sent a little bit of radio equipment to the Bonnaroo to help their public safety. Also note that we had a drowning on Percy Priest Lake that we assisted with there at Pools Knob. And then also within the radio report, we've been working with the new public safety centers and such as that to make sure that they're up and running and they're ready to go. Our communications center received 5,500 calls with 1,300 911 calls. As we see that as the summer warms up, we increase our call volume quite a bit. And just some things, we've got some extreme heat coming in. Want to make sure that everybody gets under the shade, uses the air conditioner, and the biggest key to that is being hydrated. So that's my report.
Questions on the report?
Question, just to kind of follow up on what Commissioner McMurray had asked, are there cooling stations or will there be advertised any type of cooling centers for those that need to get out of the heat?
So I've been in contact with Sergeant Wood, which is with Murfreesboro Police Department, and assisting the homeless. That's where our most populated areas for the homeless. And he is, I just texted him earlier if we had an exact location, and he said that he was still working with that. But that unit has focus on our homeless population. And that's one of the biggest concerns that we have concerning that. But we do not have a definitive address or time.
Mr. James?
Just you stirred a question and wondering, do you have any idea how our homeless population is growing right now?
No, I think just by observation, I've seen a big increase. Actually seen a big increase over by our office on West College Street. And we had one sitting on the front doorstep one morning and tried to get into the building, and he was unsuccessful getting into the building. However, we've seen quite a bit of increase in homeless population, especially in the Murfreesboro area. Smyrna has some, Laverne has some, but our biggest population is in Murfreesboro.
Commissioner Rather?
Brings up another question. We talked months ago about a fence around EMS. Is that up?
It is not. We ran into some complications there with certain site plans and things like that. I'm working with Adam Dodd. A conversation occurred this week with Adam Dodd. We did get an extension from that grant so that we could get all of our ducks in a row to a certain extent to make sure that we had the right permits and site plans, and that was required by Murfreesboro City Planning.
I don't want to be misinterpreted that, hey, we need to keep the homeless out, because if they get some shelter, so be it. But it just popped in my head. I thought we had a fence up.
Well, we're working on that.
For other reasons.
Correct. I mean, we've had some drag racers that was spinning around in the parking lot. We've had some homeless. We've had people come in. And one of our big things is during those disasters, all of us come in, and so we can get media. We have different groups that have access to the people that are working in the OC, and we want to help them concentrate on their work.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve. I heard you. Second over here, Commissioner McMurray. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Do you have a grant? Yeah, he's got the, you got that.
Here's the one with the email.
So we applied for a hazardous material emergency preparedness grant some time ago. We are requesting that we accept this grant. It's been approved. This is a grant for hazardous materials training equipment that will be able to go to all of our hazardous materials teams. They can use it. Our portion of the grant is $6,149. The federal percentage is 80%. It's $24,597.62. The total project is $30,747.03. we are requesting to accept this grant.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. Any other question?
Question, were these matching funds included in the budget we just approved?
Yes, ma'am.
Other question? Call the roll.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Commissioner Oliver,
Aye.
Commissioner Beverly,
Yes.
Commissioner McMurray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Chairman Reed.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. Other business?
No.
No. Well, I've got so many marks on here once we changed. And I had a comment about you written down here, so
Hope it's good. Good evening. For the month of May, we did 3,389 calls, 37 inter-facility transfers. The response time was 7.3, and we had 31 autopsies for the month, and year-to-date autopsies $586,040. We collected $1,032,229. And then the next page is some events and standbys that we did, and then the convalescent side, we did 521 calls. We collected $143,180. A couple of thank you notes. I think the second one back, kind of wanted to draw your attention to. It was an email that was sent in by a family member. A lady was visiting Murfreesboro from Alabama. She went into cardiac arrest out on Murfreesboro Road, halfway between Murfreesboro and Smyrna. CPR, she was defibrillated, successfully resuscitated 10 days later. She was back home in Alabama with no deficits. So those names of those dispatchers and crews are kind of listed there, so I kind of want to make a special note to that. And then we made the EMS 1 national publication over the bull attack out in Eagleville. And then the next couple is just some notes from Vanderbilt. And that's my report.
any questions on the report? I was just going to say, I received a phone call concerning y'all out at Eagleville during the tractor pull, but they were all getting complimentary reports, talking about they really appreciate it. And you got to understand the fact that we had ambulances not only at that tractor pull on that Saturday, but we also had them at the air show and what all we had involved there, and they were able to cover all those events right there, which is something, was a yeoman job to do that, and we really appreciate what was done there by our staff. Any questions, comments?
I just want to say I appreciate last week when I came in. I was unannounced, came in, and missed you, but your staff was very helpful with it and had a great phone call with you and then another phone call afterwards. So I apologize for making you miss some of the ball game. And I appreciated your time and going over some of the things.
I didn't mind missing the game, but while I was in the parking lot talking to you, almost got hit by a foul ball. Now, I would have minded that if I had that happened.
Other questions, comments?
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Commissioner James.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, your report is approved. All right, now other business. Is there other business at this time? If not, we hope you all have a wonderful 4th of July and be safe out there in this heat that we have. If not, we are adjourned.